The 90s, to many, is often considered the golden era of rap or hip-hop music. New York is where hip-hop music started, so it's only right that we take it to the next level. We're going to discuss how rap music in the 90s changed the outlook of the culture today. To help me to explain, I interviewed several professionals, including party promoter Mike Belgrave, Harmony Records store owner Glenn Belger, DJ Duff the Inventor, and Big Vaughn, president of the Matrix Studios.
I would definitely say rap music from New York was more fun. It was more things that you would actually hear in clubs. Rap music to me, back in the 90s, it had more content. You could listen to a song right now from the 90s and it's the shit. Whereas, if you listen to something that, Drake or Nicki Minaj is actually rapping about right now in another 5 to 10 years, it's not even going to be played on the radio no more. So I would definitely say that music back then had a lot more content to it. It was a lot more feeling put into it. It was a lot more lyrics. Whereas now everything is about hooks, catchy hooks. People don't even, know songs anymore. You just know hooks.
90s music is cool. It's better than today's music, I can tell you that. And the 90s music, remember, there was really no internet back then. So people were actually buying music back then. So I remember from that perspective, it was awesome.
Early 90s, running around, with Fat Joe. He just came out with the Flow Joe album. Actually, it was Represent album, and I was on there. I was also in the video in 93. Also, that's the year that Nas was definitely booming at the same time with the Illmatic. Also, Wu-Tang was popping up at the same time, which was a good time at that year. It was good. It was good music. It was hip hop. It was fun. It was enjoyment. Also, at the time, it was also slightly a beef starter, because growing up, the music was more violent at the time, but it was real, and it was almost, what the hip hop was at the time. So it was different.
Back then, it was harder to get into music. Back then, it was a respect thing amongst your peers to be nice. I mean, you had little kiddie play raps like the Kid and Plays and the Bismarckies. You always had, Fresh Prince. You had those type of, the majority, you had to be nice. That's just what it was. You couldn't just say anything. And now it's like you could just say anything, have a hot beat, and as long as you got a hot beat and a nice hook, you good. Back then it wasn't like that. You had to be nice to have respect amongst your peers. So I think rap is good that it's worldwide, but it's watered down though.
The music and the lyrics at that time, it made you more aware of what was happening in our society, because the music put it in the forefront, and usually the music affects the kids. And some of the kids, if they won't watch the news, at least they could hear the music and really get an understanding of what's really going on in society.
People going into the dictionary, looking at big words, looking up their delivery, finding their best way to flow, their best way to deliver, all kinds of creative styles of wordplay. Wordplay was really serious. You had, nowadays, you can be able to say anything. Cat in the Hat jumped over the moon. I hopped on this girl's shit, and she was part of the broom. She's on my wood.
It was a lot of hardcore lyrics, and it was a lot of political lyrics. I remember back then, people was wearing black medallions. Instead of people wearing ice, it was nobody wearing ice back then. Everybody had black medallions and stuff like that. And then you go to the mid-90s, to the end of the 90s, that was the ice bling bling era.
Hip-hop was born here. So I think that we have kind of influenced the way everybody else rhymes, even though, it might sound different. Again, everything comes back to the essence. And that essence is New York. So no matter where music is going to go, everybody's always going to follow what New York is doing.
In the early 90s, New York City had many rap groups. One was the Wu-Tang Clan.
So what's up, man?
Coolin', man.
Chillin'. Yo, I had to call. You know why, right?
Why?
Because, I never, ever called and asked you to play something, right?
Yeah.
You know what I want to hear, right?
What you want to hear?
I want to hear that Wu-Tang joint.
Wu-Tang consisted of 9 members, including RZA, GZA, Method Man, Raekwon, Ghostface, Inspector Deck, U-God, Master Killer, and Old Dirty Bastard. In 1993, they released their first album, Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers.
Well, 36 Chambers, in fact, was my biggest selling Wu-Tang album of all time. It was really like the introduction to Wu-Tang to the people. And like I said, it was something different that they really haven't heard before. So they were buying that up like, forget it, like crazy.
When Wu-Tang first came out, when I first heard of Wu-Tang, it was in 1991. In 1991, the first song that came out was Protect Your Neck.
Back, relax, won't style. Ray got it going on, pal. Call me the rap assassinator. Rhymes rugged and built like Schwarzenegger.
Protect Your Neck was one of them songs that was just almost too crazy, too grimy. You had damn near 1 million artists at the time spitting and rapping and doing different types of styles of rap.
For them to take kung fu flicks and use that in they rap, like nobody thought of that. You know what I'm saying? Nobody ever thought of that. That was so creative on a whole nother level, you know. Even when they had the radio version, they wanted to cut out a curse. They had the kung fu chops and stuff like that. Like RZA was a genius at that time, and Wu-Tang had a great run because they had the whole 90s. They had from like maybe 92 to the end of the 90s. That's a great run. Because after they came out with the group albums, they was all coming one by one, boom, 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 and busting ass. Like, that's what I remember about Wu-Tang. So to me, man, they one of the greatest groups of all time.
After the success of the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, they continued to release solo projects. I believe that's when hip-hop groups began to go solo.
Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Here we go. Dollar
Shake
bill,
this shit.
yo.
It's more solo acts now because they don't want to split the money. And it's not enough money to go around, first of all. You got to remember, the groups of today are not selling CDs anymore. So they can't make money on that. They got to make money on touring and merchandising like T-shirts, buttons, and lunchboxes. And if you don't do that, you ain't making any money. And the more people in the group, that's a smaller piece of the pie that you get.
I mean, again, think about it. If you had 5 different Michael Jordans playing on one team, I mean, again, it's not going to work after a while because you have 5 different personalities that are all starters and all stars in their own right.
At the time, RZA, he didn't want nobody from the Wu-Tang to use anybody else's music but his, which kind of separated them because the music was changing at the time. So everybody started doing their own thing and they wanted to hear a different sound.
Like them, they changed the whole game. Because I don't think they really wanted to be a group. It's just that they was all together and they was just nice. We had like our own, like that was a sacrifice that they all made, but it was life-changing, man, what they did. Like, when they said Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with, that was real. You know what I'm saying? At that time, they was nothing to fuck with. You couldn't fuck with them dudes, man. They always nice. If you said anything, you was gonna get your ass chewed out by one of them lyrically.
Tiger style.
Tiger style. Yo. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing.
At the time, you know, you had Wu-Tang and Bad Boy beefing. And growing up at that time, it was different. We didn't really know. Well, I knew what beef was, you know what I mean? But my beef to the music beef was different because I wasn't in the music game. But growing up, it was a lot of things being said, a lot of words being said, who was biting. And you know, at that time, it was get your own style, be original, which we don't have today. Bad Boy was changing the game to the fact that they was more of commercial, things that were supposed to be played on radio, things that were supposed to hear for people to dance to.
March 9th, 1997 was a sad day in music, where some could say the greatest rapper of all time died. The Notorious B.I.G. released Life After Death, and Puffy's Bad Boy Records began to dominate music.
Biggie was huge because it was just, number one, the beats were sick, the music, the production, and actually what he was saying. I mean, and his flow was phenomenal. The girls loved it, the guys loved it, and they ate it up. And this is pre-internet, so these people were actually going out and buying the CD and record.
Well, I would think that it definitely showed a different side of Biggie. That album showed that Biggie was actually, kind of versatile, and he just wasn't a quote unquote gangster rapper or whatever you want to call it. Because I mean, like, there were songs on there that just showed different aspects of Biggie's life.
Come on.
To this day, I think Biggie's the greatest rapper ever, and anybody from that era will agree with me, for the most part. He was so witty with his lyrics. At that time, none of us ain't never heard nothing like that. And at that time, that's what rap was missing, the cleverness. He was real clever with his lyrics. T-bone steak, cheese, eggs, and Walter's grape. Who would say that in they rhymes? It was so simple, but clever at the same time. And Biggie didn't even get to his peak yet, and that's the sad part. And us as fans, we didn't get to catch that. So Life After Death, when it came out, it showed, the next level of where he was about to go, and we never got the chance to see that. I remember listening to Life After Death with my cousin, Zoe from Blockworth. I remember being in his house, man. I remember getting the CD, the double disc CD, and I remember us putting it in, and we was literally on that CD for hours, just listening to it, studying it, and like, oh my God, like, man, lyrically, he was just on another planet. Buy my CD twice. You see me on the streets and be like, yo, he's nice, but it's on the low though. Beat them cats with no dough, try to play me at my show. I pull out foes that go up in your clothes. Like, yo, dude was smart, man. Dude was real smart. So, R.I.P. Big IG.
Puffy's No Way Out album had 5 successful singles and sold 7 million copies in the U.S., according to the Recording Industry Association. Puffy was a rap artist that didn't write his own lyrics. He described it as entertainment. One could say that's when the realness was lost in rap music.
Well, I would definitely say that, Bad Boy took hip-hop to a different level, because, I mean, at one time, if you remember, Bad Boy had it sold up. But again, I mean, there's different genres of music for different people. Like, not everybody wants to hear about, you smoking weed or how many people you killed. Some people like that dance club, back to the essence of what hip hop really was. And I think that, for that time period, that's kind of what Puffy was trying to do. Puffy was actually trying to make hip hop, fun again. Because if you remember, like, right around that time of Biggie and Pac's death, hip hop was more angry. It was more, I'm gonna kill you, your wife did this to me. So I think, what Puff did was he tried to actually just bring hip hop back to the essence of it just being fun.
His flow was just smooth, and he had samples and R&B flavors that everybody could get into, because he sampled classics, and the classics that were sampled were already hits. So when you hear a bar or two of a classic and it's a hot classic, automatically you're drawn to that record.
Finally, in the 90s, as rap began to generate more money, it became less authentic and more commercial. You could say rap went from underground to mainstream. I'm John Grant from BMCC, signing off.